In this video, I'm going to show you how to do some simple tasks in Excel to create a data results table appropriate for your lab report. For this particular example, I'm going to create the sample data results table for the calculations and measurement lab that we did for lab number 1. So you can follow along and do the same sorts of things to create your table. There's a template of the table that I'm about to create already uploaded onto Canvas in PDF form. So you can't simply cut it up and paste over it. You'll have to create your own. Now I'm going to use Excel, which is a package that's on my computer as part of my Office 2013. I would suggest rather than use the free version of Excel, if you're going to use a free program, use the free version of Google Sheets, which is a better program than the free version of Excel. But if you already have purchased Excel or Office, and you have Excel on your computer, Excel in that form is by far the most powerful spreadsheet to use. So I'll assume that if you're using Excel, you are using the version that you have as part of access to an Office purchased software package. So if you open Excel, click on it and open it, you'll see this page. I want to create a new spreadsheet, so I'll click on blank workbook. What you'll notice, I'm going to go ahead and make that full screen, is in Excel, the column headings are in letters. The row numbers are numbered. So this cell would be cell A1. You can see that appear up here. This cell would be B1, as shown there, C1, D1, etc. This would be cell A2, and so on. As I type an entry into each of the cells, the contents appears in this formula line. And if I want to edit or change the contents of a cell or to append something to the end of the contents, I would go up here and make that change. So to create my data results table for the lab number 1, I'm going to label this column, which will be my data label, so data and results. And then I'm going to hit the tab key to move to the next cell to the right. For the initial part of this lab involving the measurements with the burette and 50 milliliter beaker, there were 4 trials. So I'll type in trial 1, 2, 3, 4 for my column headings. Trial 1, trial 2, trial 3, trial 4. If I hit the tab key, I move to the cell to the right. If I hit the enter key, it moves to the cell below. Now, one of the things that's useful in formatting is to change the column width. I'm going to need a much wider column here for my labels. So click up here on the column letter number A. Slide your cursor to the edge of that column till you see the double arrows. Then click down your mouse, hold, and drag, and you can change the width of that column to about whatever you want. So I'll just pick this for now. We'll change it later if we need to. Then we're going to type in the first few entries. I'll show you how to do just simple data entry with Excel. And then we'll skip ahead to our final set of features of formatting and formulas. So my first entries will be about the volume of water in the burette. So starting volume of water in burette. Now I'm going to type the units here in the label because that way I can avoid having to attach the units to my numbers of actual data. So in here in my actual data, I can type only the numbers and not have the units attached. The reason that's convenient is if I want to do any mathematical operations in Excel using the entries in number format, the only way Excel represents a number is if it's a pure number with no units attached. So I'll put all my unit labels here, and then this will be just a pure number. For me, I started at 0, so 0.00 is what I'll type in. And you'll notice that Excel has the same problem your calculator has, namely that it drops those trailing zeros right at the decimal. I wanted Excel to keep that, so I'm going to click back inside that cell. I come up here to the number area, and I want to increase the number of decimal places, so I'll come up here to this box, click twice to move that decimal place so that 2 more decimal places appear. If I click on this one, it will decrease the number of decimal places. So I want to keep 2. My next one is ending volume of water in burette. Again, my units here. And for me, that was 40.88. So type that in. Excel has no trouble accepting that. And then we dispense the water into the graduated cylinder. So my next entry is volume of water in graduated cylinder. Again, my units are here at milliliters. I'll tab to the right. For me, that was 41.0. See, the same thing happens. I'll have to come up here, add another decimal place, not that many. It's 1. And now I've run off the edge of my column, so I'm going to increase the width of that column a little bit. Now for each of those measurements, there was only one trial, so let's look at what happens when you need multiple entries. The first one where I need that is the mass of the empty beaker, which we did 4 times on the analytical balance. So mass of empty 50 ml beaker. My units are grams. That way I can just type my pure data here. So for me it was 25.8583 grams, 25.8581 grams, 25.8582 grams, 25.8585. And notice because I have grams here, I don't need to put grams next to my numbers. So that's really convenient. I'm going to do what they do in the cooking shows now. Rather than have you watch me type in the rest of the entries, I'll skip ahead to the nearly finished version of this table, and then I'll show you the remaining tasks. So here I've finished in typing the remaining data. So here's the mass of the 50 milliliter beaker plus the water in grams, my 4 entries. Here is the difference between those two. So the mass of the beaker with the water minus empty beaker, and that is the mass of the water, so that goes here. Now here's where I'll show you how to let Excel do the math for you. So what I want in this column is to take the mass of the beaker with the water, subtract the mass of the empty beaker, and I can do that as a formula in Excel. To type in a formula, I would type in my formula as an equal sign, and then rather than type in the number, all I need to do is click on the cell. So I want to subtract this number, the mass of the beaker plus water, minus, so a minus sign, minus this number, the beaker empty, hit enter, and the calculation is done automatically. The other nice thing about Excel is if you have a formula in any particular cell, you can copy that formula to other cells, and it will use the data in the corresponding columns or rows rather than the one that you're working in. So let's see what that result is. So I want to copy this cell. So come up here to hit the copy. Now I want to copy that into each of these particular columns. So I'll click and drag across and hit paste. So this particular column subtracted these 2 numbers in column B. By copying that formula over here, you see that now it subtracted the numbers in column C. Same for here, subtracted the numbers in column D, and this one subtracted the numbers in column E. So that's a really useful feature of Excel that can be a real time saver if you have a lot of calculations. Now I have the average of those masses. Here's the temperature of my water. Here's the density of water at this temperature. Here are my calculated values of volume from mass and density. The last thing I'm going to show you how to do is to create, and I'll just get rid of these here, is how to create an average. Both average and standard deviation are built-in functions in Excel. So to calculate an average, I'm going to do a equal sign, and then average. Note, you cannot leave the equal sign out of a formula or it will just interpret what you're typing as text. So average, left paren with no space, and then click and drag for the 4 entries I want to average, close the paren, hit enter. You may need to change the number of decimal points shown. I didn't have to worry about that. And then here I want the standard deviation, so equals, the standard deviation function is stdev, no space, and then left paren. I want to take the standard deviation of these 4 numbers and close paren, hit enter. And again, you may need to change the number of digits shown, but mine was already set up, so okay. So those will be super useful functions for you to help you with writing your lab reports. The last thing I'm going to show is a formula for the percent. The one I've left out is the percent change in diameter of the polymer bead. So this is all my information about the polymer bead before and after heating, including mass, diameter, volume, density, and then the same 4 variables after. Now here are my percent changes. I'll show you the calculation using a formula in Excel for the percent change in diameter of the polymer bead. So for that, I want to take the diameter of the bead after heating minus the bead before heating and divide that difference by the mass before heating and turn it into a percent. So to get that formula, I do equals. I select the cell that is the diameter of the bead after heating, minus sign, the diameter of the bead before heating. Now that needs to be in paren, so I'll come up here and edit by adding the paren left and right. Now to do division in Excel, I use the slash to denote division. I want to divide by the diameter of the bead before heating, so I'll click on that and then hit enter. Now this neither gave me a percent nor did it give me the correct number of significant figures, so I need to fix that. So I'll have to do a number formatting. The easiest way to do the number formatting is to right click. So right click inside the cell. You'll see this menu which gives me lots of options, but one of those choices is format cell. So I'll click on that. I want to select percentage, which is how I want the number to appear. I can change how many decimal places. It turns out I only want to keep 3 sig figs, but I'll just ignore that for now. The default would be to keep 2 decimal places. That's more than I need. I need to keep only 3 sig figs, so I can do the same thing. I'll come back up here into that format. I'll decrease how many decimal places, and so there's my answer, shown with the proper percentage format. The last thing we'll do is to change the appearance of our table. Some of my data labels are extending beyond the edge of the column, so I'll come out here and click and drag and make sure I catch everything, so that looks good. Now what I want to do is to add bold. I've already done that here, but if I want to make these bold, I would select all of them. Come up here to click on bold, so I can make those bold. Same for these labels. The other thing I can do is add grid lines, which is really helpful when you print an Excel table. The grid lines that you see in the spreadsheet will not get printed out, so you'll need to actually add them. So I want to add grid lines to all of this section of the table. So I'll click and drag to select everything. Come up here to this little grid icon. Click on the drop-down menu. I want to add all borders, so I'll click on that. And then another thing I can do is for these areas where I didn't have any data and I want to show those are intentionally blank, I can click and drag to select all of them. Then I can come to this little paint box and I can change those to a color of gray. I'll do that for these as well. Change that to a color gray, and last for these. So that's something you can also do in formatting. And then down here again, I can do grid lines for all of this. I'll click all borders, and then if I want, I can make a nice gray bar there also to kind of finish things up, and maybe just put a border around that whole thing. So just the outside borders is what I'll select for that. All right, so that is my finished data results table showing how to do formatting, entry, and some simple Excel formulas that I think will be pretty useful. The last thing you'll be needing to do is to save your table. So File, Save, decide where you want it, decide what you want to call it. I can do Save As if I want to change the name, decide where I want it to go, and then give it a name, and then click Enter. I've already got my name entered, and then just save. If I want to replace, I just click on Yes. And if you want to do print, that would be from the File menu as well. Come down here to Print, and then whatever you printer you select, you'll see a preview here, so you can tell if everything fits on one page before you print it. Make sure it looks okay, and that's it. So I'll be looking forward to seeing your lab reports typed with Excel starting next week. Happy typing.